Well, old cackling Kamala, she's getting coverage from the liberal news media. Now, there's a lot of talk going around about the fact that she was put in charge of the border. She was the border czar, as it were. I don't know if that term was actually ever used, but she was put in charge of the border back in 2021. Biden officially put her in charge of the border. I think it was March. I think one of the clips has it, the exact date. But I believe it was March. I know it was 2021. She was put in charge of the border. And now it's being covered up. She was actually never in charge of the border. That's what all the news outlets are saying. Most of them, anyhow, are saying that she was never put in charge of the border when she was. They're just because it's a main talking point for the Republicans, and we all know that she was put in charge of it, and that she has done a disastrous job of it. A lot of people don't like her. I said in a previous video that she had less than 1% of the vote during the primaries, and she was losing her home state. So, and then she got bumped into the vice presidency. Good old DEI hire. But let's check this out. There's a couple clips here that we're going to take a look at, and you can just see for yourself that she was put in charge of the border, and now they're just trying to cover it up, saying that she was never in charge of the border and that she has done a terrible, terrible job. Let's check it out.
The political left is now trying to argue that Vice President Kamala Harris was never actually the border czar. You may remember President Biden formally put her in charge of immigration in March of 2021.
I've asked her, the VP today, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle.
He specifically said she is the most qualified to handle the situation. That boggles my mind, too.
And the countries that help, we're going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks stemming the migration to our southern border.
Now it seems the left wants to erase that, like magic, from
like it never happened.
Memory. New liberal media headlines claim Kamala Harris was never Biden's border czar. She was never in charge, even suggesting that the border czar title was something made up by Republicans. And Harris's left-wing allies are desperately trying to defend her poor immigration record. Let's remember together.
She assumed the role that Vice President Biden had during the Obama administration, which is diplomacy with Central America. She is not the border czar. To the extent there's anybody who's a border czar, it's the Secretary of Homeland Security.
Number one, Harris was put in charge, as you said earlier, of combating the roots of immigration. She was not and is not the border czar.
Do you think Kamala Harris did a good job as the border czar?
I don't know that she was a border czar. Was she a border czar?
See, that's because everybody's using the term border czar, which is possible because I don't remember it ever being said that she was the border czar. It could have been said, but nobody remembers that. I don't remember it. So maybe she was never the border czar, but she was put in charge of immigration in this country, and that entitles the border. That's part of the immigration. Am I wrong? Immigration has to do with the border. That's part of being in charge of the border. That's how I take it. That's how everybody should take it. Immigration is part of the border. I don't see how you can get around that. Let's take a look at this other one here, and you can let me know here too. This is from when she was on NBC. My bad, NBC. When she was talking, she had an interview, and they were talking about how has she ever visited the border, and then she just kind of laughs it off and says, "Well, I've never been to Europe either." How has she never been to Europe either? I don't get that either, but let's take a look at it.
Talk to you about it, but let me just quickly put a button.
Okay.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
I'm here in Guatemala today. At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
Now, y'all saw that, right? She was trying to come up with something, and then that said, we were going to go to the border. We have been to the border. But then I think she was surprised that he even called her out on it, saying that, well, you've never been to the border. And that was his question. Have you been to the border? But she said we, so she can get around that question. She said we, not I. It's just evading it.
I'm not discounting the importance of the border.
Well, I mentioned it because I know Republicans have certainly come at you on this, but Democratic Congressman Cuellar has a border district, has said to you and the president, come. You need to see this.
Listen, I care about what's happening at the border. I'm in Guatemala because
she cares about what's happening at the border, but she's never gone there. I wanna say, I think there was one time that she went down to the border, the U.S.-Mexico border. I think there was one time, just the one though, that she actually went down to the border. I could be wrong. She could have not gone down there at all. But I want to say that there was one time that she did go down there. She didn't do anything, but she went down there.
Because my focus is dealing with the root causes of migration. There may be some.
She's dealing with the root causes of migration. I got an idea. Instead of doing what she's talking about the fact that she went over to Guatemala because a lot of the Guatemalans are coming from there and migrating into the U.S. How about you just tell people that they can't come in anymore? They're going to have to be properly vetted so that we don't just let anybody in here. And that you have to come in the legal way. You can't just come across the border. Finish the wall. That would stop them. Those things that I just said, I think that would solve the problem. It's not going to completely eradicate the problem at the border. You're still going to have issues. But putting up a border wall, telling people that they have to come in legally and do the right paperwork and come vetted, you're going to solve a lot of the problems that we have at the border. That's just me. But I think it would work.
Who think that that is not important. But it is my firm belief that if we care about what's happening at the border, we better care about the root causes and address them. And so that's what I'm doing.
It's not the
Okay, look. You can't just focus on the root problems and then hope that it's going to be okay. You have to handle the problem that we have at the border right now is the fact that we have thousands and thousands and thousands of border crossings. The record gets broke every month ever since Biden took office. And you're not going to cause the problem by going and look at the root causes. You need to start at the source first, handle the U.S. southern border, tackle the wall, like I said, and then put out a statement saying that people aren't going to just come in here willy-nilly anymore. They're going to be vetted, and you have to come in the legal way. Legally become a U.S. citizen. Get yourself a Social Security number, start paying taxes, just like the rest of us. Then you can come in and do it the legal way. To me, that's going to stop all the problems. Like I said, you're still going to have issues. Probably always will at the border. But doing those is going to take care of a lot of the issues. I'm gonna take a look at this other one real quick here. This is actually from the Australian, and I don't know. I want to say that they're legit because I haven't seen nothing bad about them, but it is direct quotes from the president and the vice president, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. But I want to take a look at this and see what y'all think about this, it's not a video that's gonna have where it's got their nobody's reading it or anything like that, but I'll read along with it because it is just the quotes from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So I'm gonna take a look at this. I'll just read it. Pause it if I have to. Just bear with me. No, that's the wrong one. My bad. There we go. There it is. All right. So Joe Biden has placed Vice President Kamala Harris in charge of stemming the migrant crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border. And by the way, this is from 2021. This isn't recent. This is a video and a article from 21. President Biden said he could think of no one who was better qualified. That's a direct quote. This is from President Biden. I gave you a tough job and you're smiling, but there's no one better to try and organize this. When she speaks for me. Doesn't have to check with me. She knows what she was doing. The vice president will lead diplomatic efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle countries of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador to address the root causes of the migration. The surge we're dealing with now started at the end of the last administration, which is a lie. But it is our responsibility to deal with it humanly and to stop what's happening. The vice presidents agreed, among multiple other things, and I appreciate it. I agreed to lead our diplomatic effort and work with these nations to accept the returnees and enhance migration efforts at their borders. I have asked her, the VP, today because she is the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle and the countries that are going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks. Stemming the migration to our southern border. That was part of that other video that I showed you. The vice president said there was no question that that this is a challenging situation. All right. Now these are quotes from Kamala now, from Cackling Kamala. While we are clear that people should not come to the border now, we also understand that we will enforce the law and that we also, because we can chew gum and walk at the same time, must address the root causes that cause people to make the trek as the president has described. So, they were willing to enforce the laws, as she says, but nothing ever happened. They had catch and release. They were just letting them back in. They were letting them into the country. They didn't do anything. Not a thing. If they did, we wouldn't have had thousands and thousands and thousands of record-breaking numbers of illegal migrants coming into this country every single month during those two's administration. I look forward to engaging in the diplomacy with the government, with private sector, with civil society, and the leaders of each in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras to strengthen democracy and the rule of law and ensure shared prosperity in the region. So, I got from that quote is that she's looking forward to working with Border Patrol and law enforcement and working to try and secure the border, which she never did. So, still disaster. All right. Officials at the border encountered more than 100,000 people in February, up from over 78,000 in January. President Biden said recently he would make the journey to the border at some point. Now, keep in mind, this is 2021, so it went up from 78,000 up to 100,000. It doesn't sound like you're doing anything down there, Joe, or Kamala, for that matter. Kamala was put in charge of the border. She didn't do anything. It just keeps going up and up and up. Numbers keep growing. Okay. She laughs about everything. That's why we call her Cackling Kamala.
Do you plan to visit the border?
Not today. But I have before, and I'm sure I will again.
Goodness gracious. Don't let them tell you that she wasn't put in charge of the border, because she was. She may not per se have been the border czar, but she was put in charge of the border. She was put in charge of immigration, which entails the border. And that number grew and grew and grew and grew. And don't forget that illegal aliens are costing the U.S. taxpayers over $150 billion every single year. $150 billion is what we're having to pay for illegal aliens coming into this country. Don't forget that either. Don't let them tell you that she wasn't put in charge of this, because she was. It's frustrating to me. But hey, thanks for checking it out. Hope you had a good time. Hope you learned something. Take care. Have a good one.